Good evening. How are you diddling? Excellent. Me too. Thank you very much for asking. Welcome to another episode of Dazed and Confused, my 3 times a week live show where we sit down, we chat about your questions, answering them about social media, about video, and generally trying to help you get on that content creation journey and making stuff that's going to get your brand out there, get people speaking about you, which is what social media is all about. It's that next level of marketing. It's where everybody is at the moment. So for those of you who don't know who the hell I am Simon Scholes. I'm the founder and creative director of Perception Studios. We're an award-winning visual marketing agency. We help brands and businesses create content that makes them stand out on social media, be that video, animation, aerial work, all that kind of stuff. And then a few years ago, when I was doing that work, I realized that not every brand, not every business was in a position to pay for content to be created for them, especially smaller businesses. But I kind of really wanted to help them out. I wanted to make sure that they were still kind of creating this content. So I sat down, I decided to come up with a process. I called it How to 9 Times Your Social Media. I turned it into a book. It went to #1. That was really cool. I do talks about it. And it's everything that is from planning your content all the way through to podcasting and the stuff that happens in between as well. But the whole point is trying to give you more time back as a business owner, because when you're running a small business, you try and do everything yourself. You probably shouldn't, but you try and do everything yourself, and you end up in this position where you're like, well, I know I should be doing social media, but you end up with a scattergun approach because you don't post all the time, you're not consistent, and that's what How to 9 Times Your Social Media is all about. It's trying to get you consistent, making content for free, and putting stuff out there so that people are talking about you, and then you can step away and concentrate on the stuff that will make you money. That's the whole point. But we're in weird times at the moment, and so we need to be making more content. We need to be doing all sorts of different things. We're in lockdown #2, and it's kind of messed with everybody a little bit. I was chatting with somebody the other day about this, and kind of lockdown #2 feels like it's been longer than lockdown #1 already, and we're only 2 weeks into the damn thing. Then what, 2.5 weeks in? And so we've still got another 2 weeks to go. Then we're going to go into this stupid tier system. And it's really, really messed with a lot of people's mindset, which is why I've got the guest on that I have this evening. So every week, obviously, I have different people to chat to. And tonight, I am very happy to welcome to the stream George Swift from Bigger, Brighter, Boulder. Hello, George.
Hi, Simon. Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right. I'm cold.
You're in the garage. It doesn't look like you are, but you're in like a sheddy kind of studio, aren't you?
My studio, Simon. My studio.
Yeah. So Bigger, Brighter, Boulder. First things first. Let's explain what Bigger, Brighter, Boulder actually is.
So yeah, well, Bigger, Brighter, Boulder success groups is kind of a group of ambitious business owners from early days, almost like startup kind of businesses, all the way through to our masterminds, where we have companies in there doing multiple hundreds in turnover, thousands, even up to multiple millions in turnovers. And what we really do is help people with the internal stuff. So, overcoming their own internal limitations, confidence, self-esteem issues, etc., motivation, making sure we maintain that momentum, whilst also working on all the things that stop us, slow us down, hold us back in the external world, the challenges, keeping up, maintaining sales activity, working our way through this crazy year so far, for example, helping them set goals, set their vision, holding them accountable to those goals, working together collectively to come up with new ideas for people, to share ideas, to troubleshoot, to support each other when things are tough, to celebrate and sharing their successes when things go well, and basically just to create this incredible community that we've done with Bigger, Brighter, Bolder and our success groups, just to create this incredible community of like-minded, decent business owners that are trying to do the right things. They're trying to make a success of their businesses whilst also delivering incredible service to their clients. And what we do is just help them become more successful, help them become ultimately more fulfilled, and to help them on their journey to create, the lifestyle, the life and the business that they want to achieve.
You mentioned it briefly in the middle there. Lockdown, it has been weird. How was yours been? And how has the community's lockdown been as well?
How's it been? Well, yeah. So, what's the word? Where do we start?
Bollocks, I think, is the one you're looking for.
Where did we start? Where do we start with all this stuff and that? Okay, it went from something that didn't make a lot of sense to me to something that makes less sense to me. So for me, I talk about this. I'm not a medic. I'm not a doctor. I'm not whatever. Where I come from, it's really simple. I'm here to support small business owners, right? And whilst there's other things going on in the world and everything else, small business owners are having to pay an incredible price at the moment for the course of action that the government's taking, whether we agree or disagree with that course of action. Small independents and stuff like that are really paying a massive price. So for me, I'm always weighing up the price that we're paying, as small business owners, in terms of, shutting up shops, pubs, restaurants, cafes, but even just the difficulties of businesses like yours and mine, where we can do it from home, for example, and maybe many of us do it from home anyway. It's still creating this incredible rapid decline in the economy, which is making it really challenging for people. So I think there's two heads here I've got with regards to lockdown. On the one hand, it's just another hurdle. It's just another bunch of things to navigate. I think when it hit sort of late March, the 23rd hit, and I think it was so unheard of, so unseen. It was like living in some weird movie script, like Contagion or something. And suddenly we were locked down in our houses, and it was a very strange time. And I think for about 2 weeks or so, like most people, I'm sort of playing catch up, like what the hell is going on in the world? And then we kind of hit our stride, and you start to say, right, okay, so this is what we're dealing with. This is what we have to navigate. What do we do? Me personally, I'm not gonna lie, I've kind of enjoyed lockdown, and I think it's making the best of a bad situation. The other thing is, I think it's where you focus your energy, right? And I think there's been a lot of negative things over the last 7-8 months in terms of what that means to business owners and individuals working from home, living at home. But I think, like any challenge, if you hold on to the past and you hold on to what was, you sit in that permanent frustration. Whereas I think the moment you get your head around the fact of, okay, so this is the world we're living in now, this is the environment we're living in, how do I best navigate this? How can I get the most out of this opportunity? And I think if you've got that kind of mindset, actually there's a lot of good things that have come out of lockdown for a lot of people, whether that's just realizing that the pace of life they had before and the commuting and stuff wasn't working, and working from home does work for them, whether that's Zoom and stuff, and all these businesses that have been all these crusty old businesses that refuse to go online and refuse to embrace this technology have had to take on it technology, right? And that can only be a good thing, because
twisted their arm up the back, and
right and they had to, and I think that's really good. So I think there's two sides to lockdown. You mentioned lockdown. So lockdown, the act of being locked down, I mean, yeah, you lose a lot of privileges and a lot of freedoms and stuff. You gain whatever you gain from it. Does that make sense? You re-evolve your life and stuff. In terms of the impact on the economy, of course, there's no question that we've seen that impact over the last 6-7 months with the businesses that we work with. And it's been a big part, I suppose, of what we've had to do is really help business owners to number one, make sure they stay in the game and not buy too much into the narrative, the external narrative that it's all doom, it's all gloom, it's all miserable. And, we start looking at, the recession that we're in and all these sorts of things. It's like, okay, fine, great. That is what's going on out there, but we don't have to play our part in that. Yeah. We get to set our life up, and we get to set our business up, and we get to re-engineer our lives and our businesses in a way that works best within what we're doing. And for some businesses, it was easy and it was quick. We had, we had about a week where we had to shift our stuff from being all delivery face-to-face in rooms, for example, to shift that into an online kind of business, if you like, almost overnight. So, we were working twice as many hours, probably, like many people were, for that period of time to transition things across. We doubled down in terms of supporting our members. So there's a lot of hard work in there. And from our members' perspective, some transitioned easily, seamlessly-ish. Some took a lot longer, in order to kind of find their feet and stuff. But, up until, October, we do our big board meetings and stuff. We do our quarterly board meetings in the group where everyone, reports back to us. And by October, actually, the vast majority of members were not just back on track, actually, were actually ahead. And if anything, still on track for the goals they set back in January when we lived in a normal world. And we thought, when we had all those predictions of how all those things that we presumed were going to happen, like
everything looked so rosy,
like summer holidays, and just the obvious things that you just assumed would happen, and your kids going to school and stuff like that. So back in January, there's a lot of optimism, wasn't there, around 2020, and I'm always skeptical. I'm always skeptical about that blind optimism. It's a new year, it's all going to be new, it's all going to be different. But this year, I'm not going to lie, it felt like it was going to be. And the year's not over yet. And I think there's been a lot of opportunity during this year. It's come with a lot of pain, a lot of struggling. But I think like everyone, I think you struggle. I think it's annoying. I think it's an inconvenience. I think it's frustrating. I think it can get you angry and frustrated at certain times and all this lot. But I think ultimately it's as bad as you make it. And I think it's as good as you make it. And I would rather be where we were, but I can't make that happen because I'm not in charge. So we are where we are. So you've got two choices. Do you keep harping back to what was? Do you keep looking forward to what could be? Or do you say, right now, this is life, this is business, this is how it works, and just capitalize on it best you can, right?
Yeah. Speaking of what was, then let's leave the world of BBB for a moment and go back to the start. What kind of got you into what you're doing now? What have you done in the past?
So yeah, right. So if you go right the way back, I've been, and believe it or not, it took me, I know, like 2 decades to work this out. That actually, I've always been like a teacher, right? I always fought against school. I was an averagely good student. I did enough to keep under the radar, and I did pretty all right, but nothing amazing. and I'm quite critical of education in all senses as well, by the way. I always have been. So it was quite a revelation to me when I realized that about the age of 40, that actually I've been a teacher like kind of my whole life. It's weird. So going right the way back, my whole life really. I mean, when I was younger, I was into kickboxing and martial arts, and I took over the club and run the club for a while, for a number of years. And then I set up my own clubs in conjunction with other people. So I've always been that kind of teacher, coach, mentor kind of thing around performance. And then I went off and did some sales jobs and had my own recruitment firm and stuff like that. Then I went back to university, as you do sometimes, bit of a, I say early midlife crisis, only 30. What does that mean? Midlife crisis? I don't know. So I went back to university and I did film, a master's in film and stuff. And I came out and lectured in film. So again, I hadn't really put the link together. That the whole thread, my whole life has constantly been about educating, inspiring, motivating, teaching, just trying to help people to give them that leg up and that level up. And I think there was a point when I was still doing the university lecturing in film, and I was doing some work up here with my partner Tracy. Well, actually not true. Actually, we weren't doing any work at that point. I was seeing her, and I wanted to bring something closer to home so I could have more time here. So the university stuff I was doing part time, and I wanted to do some work out here. So I started doing some personal training, and I thought, right, if I added coaching to personal training, it would be. And honestly, I thought, you know what, I'll get a certificate that says I can do some coaching. I'd kind of been that, that guru guy for so long or whatever, I've been called all sorts of things. Guru George, Swami Swift. Yeah, Guru George, Swami Swift was when I had when I was younger. Because I never realized, I was the guy that friends would come to and just unload and say, explain this to me. What's going on? What's going on in here? So I was that kind of role. And I think I took up, I started doing the personal training. I did the coaching qualification to really support that. I thought it would be a good thing just to do, and that just took over. So from the personal training, it went very quickly into confidence and self-esteem for people, which were really a lot of the issues that were behind, if you like, the clients that were coming to me for personal training. Tracy was already doing her coaching course at the same time. We had enrolled on that. So we both qualified as coaches, and then we thought, right, we're going to become confidence coaches. Well, now confidence coach, as you well know, like every other coach is a confidence coach, and there's one on every corner, and every networking group in the world has a.
We'll come to that in a moment.
Right. Okay. Right. Well, I know you work in that field, right? So for me, back then there really wasn't, and you were trying to distinguish yourself, and it was self-esteem, and a lot of what I did was around fear, because another thing I did, which was the self-defense work and stuff. So I used to work in inner city rejuvenation projects. This was at the same time, by the way, as doing the university lecturing and what have you. And I'd work in inner city rejuvenation projects all around London. I worked at the Bank of England, the Prince's Trust, for example. That was all around fear, and it was all about conflict management. So I was there to kind of teach them how to do self-defense. But for me, it was like 1 hour's worth of physical, 3 hours was about empowerment and mindset, and and what is it you're doing that's creating so much hostility in your own life?
Attention, yeah.
Right. So I was doing a lot of that. And I think so much background on all that. So when we started doing the confidence, self-esteem, I leaned heavily on what I knew about the emotional responses around fear and anxiety and all that sort of stuff, and brought that into my clients. And I coached on things that you're not meant to coach on. So I was coaching on things like suicide. I was coaching on depression, anxiety, self-harming, eating disorders, things you're not meant to coach on. But I was finding these people kept coming to me because they therapy hadn't worked for them, and other things they'd tried and worked for them, and I was just getting amazing results by just honestly just getting them to understand what was going on in here, and just having that awareness and that revelation, and showing them where things have got a little bit like cross-wired, and sort of guiding them out of those spaces. And from there, we just fell in love with that. And I just fell in love with, and it's something I've had my whole life, which is just trying to help people, support people. The underdog, always been the underdog, right? I'm the guy that wants to coach, like I did, coach the worst rugby team in the country rather than the best team in the country. I'm always that guy that gets that underdog, and I think me and Trace, when we started coaching our self-confidence, self-esteem, and it moved very heavily into working with entrepreneurs and business owners around those issues. And it was just a natural step into the company we have today, BBB, and stepping into success groups. Like 8.5 years ago, success groups launched, which was really around mindset, personal performance, motivation, all those sorts of things, and goal setting for entrepreneurs and their businesses. And since then, we've kind of just really evolved the business from there. So what got me into it is what's always, I suppose, fueled me, from whether it's the self-defense days, the lecturing days, or whether it's the days going back to martial arts and stuff in my clubs and being an instructor there and a kickboxing coach. It's about helping people to tap into more of what they've got. And then we just found our absolute love and passion for business owners and entrepreneurs.
And I was just going to ask the question. Obviously, I mean, it's probably a fairly obvious answer after what you've just said. But what made you want to work with smaller businesses rather than going for the big bucks with the corporate boys, for example?
So of course you do, right? And I talk about this quite a lot now, actually, to business owners. There's always that allure of going into blue chips or big corporations, because obviously, number one, you assume that's where the money is. Number two, that's where the big work is. Also, it's where, it's like it's perceived that's where the sexy work is, in the big businesses and stuff like that. So we chased that as well. And very quickly I realized that's not the right environment for me. So, I'm quite challenging. I'm not your typical business coach. In fact, I'm not a business coach at all. I never pitch myself as that. I'm not that guy that's going to come in a suit and a tie. And I'll put a shirt on for you, Simon. You should be impressed.
You dressed up as well.
You wore a t-shirt. If I'd known, I'd have just kept the t-shirt on. But yeah, so I wear a shirt. I always wear a shirt. But no, and I was that guy who would turn up, and I'd turn up in jeans and a t-shirt, or even shorts and stuff, and work with companies and stuff like that, their board tables. And if they were listening, if I could get in, I could have an impact. But often the impact was just hard work, because the size of the machines and stuff like that, the mechanisms of big corporate just didn't work.
The tools, but there's so much red tape half the time, isn't there? I guess
it was. Yeah. And winning the business was really hard as well, stuff like that. So we used to do like one-off events, back in the day, and that was a big thing we used to do for corporates. We'd go in and do big pump-up events, or we'd take a senior leadership team, or the board team, and we'd do like a big pump-up event and get them to look at fears and look at how they can increase their performances and stuff. And that was kind of fun. But honestly, the reason we moved away from that is twofold. One is actually the reason I say to a lot of small businesses, don't chase the big business, is because actually the red tape and all that lot, actually, you can go bankrupt waiting to try and win a deal with a big corporate. It could take months, and there's, and it's all these different things. Whereas you can work with a smaller business where the owner's still in the business. It can still be a multi-million-pound business, but the owner's still in the business. They just make fast decisions. But really, the love for me was when you have any kind of impact in a smaller organization, it's almost like immediate. It's the same reason I love sport and coaching in sport. And I mentored the rugby team, for example, is because you can have a conversation today, and if they get it today, you can see the performance on the field tomorrow. And small businesses are the same. You can see the shift almost like tomorrow, whether that's tomorrow literally or just a week or a month, you can see that feedback really quickly. And for me, I went even smaller, and most of my members are under 100K businesses. We've got a fair chunk over that, but a lot of our businesses are under 100K. And the reason is because so many business owners are, running 20, 30K businesses, maybe even 40, 50K businesses, but they get trapped in that space where they've created an income for themselves. They've created a job for themselves, but they could be so much more, and they could do so much more. And there's that frustration that really good people that I believe deserve to have much more success than maybe they're having, can have it, and it's not rocket science at that level to create some really nice changes and shifts. So for me, I just absolutely love it. So for me, small businesses, definitely owner-led businesses, even the one-to-one work I occasionally do, they're bigger businesses, maybe 4 or 5 million, but they're still companies that maybe got 20, 30, 40, maybe 50 people max in them. small businesses under 49, under 49 staff, most of them well under the million. And out of that, the majority are even under 100K. Just love it. I just love it. I just love helping an individual create a better life for them. It's instantaneous, right? I make you more successful in your business. Instantaneously, you create a better life for you. Instantaneously, you're delivering better for your clients. It's that immediate feedback that I love so much.
Cool. You mentioned earlier that the world of mindset coaches, we're going to have to delve into it a little bit, I feel. We've had conversations about this in the past. Social media, obviously, hugely powerful tool. The world of mindset coaches, especially over lockdown, seems to have tenfolded with more 8-year-olds who think they know the world. What do you take from it? How do you see social media and the mindset gurus, shall we call them?
The goods. So, well, I mean, you got two different things here, right? For me, so like anything, right? Like anything that is an opportunity can be used either way, right? And any change, I've said about the lockdown, any change can create pain and misery and suffering and negativity, and any change, the same change is also the catalyst for creating some really good things and amazing things. So social media specifically, what's amazing about it is that you can literally become a world star from your bedroom, right? If you've got something really good to say, if you're charismatic, charming, if you've got that star quality, you can make it with nothing, and I love it. I love watching, these 22-year-olds or something that are literally, they're buying their parents 6-bedroom houses and they're making millions, right? Doing YouTubing and stuff. And I'm fascinated by that world because it's like, it's a platform for everyone to shine, right? The negative side of it, of course, is actually there's the smoke and the mirrors and all those sorts of things, and there's a lot of fake gurus out there. And when we look at, the highest levels, sometimes the people that we look up to the most, the closer you get to those gurus and the more you see behind the curtain, the more you see maybe a side of my industry that I don't like and I'm not a fan of. It's something that I've been battling my whole life, or my whole business life in terms of this business, which is, it's got to be authentic, it's got to be honest and whatever. And I think social media has created, on the one hand, it enables this rawness of honesty to come through, but it's almost given a platform for greater levels of bullshit as well. And I think that's like the double-edged sword. I think, and one of the problems I have with this, and I feel, and I do feel strongly about this, is there's some really good, talented people that aren't getting out there and they're not making a name for themselves. And there's some people out there who, honestly, if you scratch the surface of who they were as people, you wouldn't give them a cent, let alone give them, billion-pound businesses or whatever. You know what I mean? And and I think for me, it's that, like anything, right? It's an amazing opportunity, but it's also like anything. It's created a number of people have exploited, if you like, the platform. And
I mean, a lot of them come up with some very dangerous comments, not literally dangerous of jump off a bridge, but dangerous in business and things like that. What do you think it is? Speaking of mindset, and obviously this is what you work in, what do you think it is then that has drawn people to those people? If they're giving so much bullshit, surely people can see through that. But you and I, we've had this conversation, right? And the conversation is, and it's that question, right? Because I can't answer it 100%, but it is that question where you and I, I've had this with you a number of times, and you're like, how can they not see it? Like it, it's like, it's so obviously there. I'm not going to name any names, right? You and I have talked about different names in the past, right? It's so obviously there. It's so obviously bullshit, or it's so obviously they're not nice people, or it's so obviously a scam or a con, and whatever it might be, right? There's this whole thing in there, this conpreneur kind of backflip on a beach and then run up to the camera. Hey, do you want to do the same as me?
Right, that one particular guy was quite spectacular. And then there's the guy that loses weight and then he's got his shirt off in every video. It's a weird thing. I look at it and I go, what, really? And then people buy into it. I think when you see someone face to face and you look them in the eyes and stuff like that, you can normally see who the person is. And I think with social media and stuff, I think like you and I here, we're connecting with whatever. It's not quite the same as if we're looking each other straight in the eyes and stuff like that. And I think it's easy to create a veneer, a film, if you like, veneer over who you are as a personality and what you're doing. It's what they've been doing in Hollywood and pop stars forever, right? So, I mean, nothing's changed. Yeah. You take someone that can't sing, you auto-tune them, you give them some plastic surgery. Yeah, right. Give them some plastic surgery, roll them fucking out, and Simon Cowell can wrap them up in something, and suddenly you've got a number one singer who can't sing very well, who doesn't write their own songs. And it's just, and I think it's just the same. I think it's just an extension of that. I think it's, why is it that we're revering people that clearly don't have a lot of talent, but have had this machine wrapped around them to create a fake version of that person, that the people that orchestrate this, the puppet masters, of these people, they know how to make them appeal to an audience, and they're just brilliant at it. And I think when we look at like social media and the gurus we're talking about and the big names and that, obviously, money helps. You put your face everywhere and you spend a lot of money behind it. But I think also they are just really talented in wrapping themselves up in that persona, that superstar persona, in the same way that Simon Cowell might wrap a pretty talentless singer and make them a megastar. It's the same thing they seem to be able to do. And there's that magic formula, which takes someone that maybe doesn't have superstar quality, but somehow they wrap themselves up in a way that works,
It's that age-old adage, isn't it? Fake it till you make it, I guess.
Well, yeah, but yeah, I'm not. Well, what's this? It's when you rent your Lamborghini or you stand next to somebody else's. You mean that's all fake it? Yeah. Look, there's a line, isn't there? There's a line, because I'm here to help motivate and support people. So when I say about being honest and authentic, I wouldn't expect you to come out to your client saying, "Listen, I have serious doubts about my performance. I've got some self-esteem issues. I think I'm pretty good at what I do, but if I'm honest with you." There's a lot of anxiety around of course, right? You're not going to be that authentic and honest, right? I'm here to help people to tap into their strengths and to promote themselves in a positive way. But I think there's a difference between that and and again, I'm talking negatively. Some of these people just have that star quality, probably the same as, why does Tom Cruise get all the roles that he gets? He's clearly not the best actor in Hollywood, and yet he clearly makes more money than everyone else out there. So he's doing something very, very right. And I think some people
work harder than anybody else, doesn't it? That's the thing. So
right. So I think you've got different levels. So you've got the compreneur type thing we're talking about, which is a deliberate manipulation of the audience. You've then got people that have that natural star quality and charisma that, whatever, just hits the mark. Then you've got the people that are just willing to work and graft their way to that sort of success. And then you've got, everybody else scratching their chin, sort of, looking at why are they so successful when whatever. And I think what I've said to a lot of people is, it's not about knocking anyone who's successful, who's not as good at you, or you perceive isn't as good as you at what you do. When I used to work in film and stuff, lecture and stuff, there's loads of actors who would see themselves potentially as better actors than some leading actors in Hollywood, right? A lot of these actors just, I don't know, upset people, right? But if you look at Jack Nicholson, for fuck's sake, he's got one character, Jack Nicholson, and yet he's considered one of the greatest actors of all time. Whether he's an evil Jack Nicholson or just a moody, mean Jack Nicholson, it's all the scale of exactly the same Jack Nicholson. And, when you look at people, some of the best, we consider to be the biggest, most loved actors in the world, they're clearly not massively dimensional. In fact, film, it's often your bit part character, the person that plays second, third lead. They're normally, in many ways, the better actor, but they haven't got that charisma, the charm, that sort of star quality. But I see a lot, I met a load of like budding actors that look up to these major actors and think, Christ, how the hell does that person become there? I coached a singer once. Like, how does that person have pop star career and they can't even sing, they can't even write, they can't even whatever. And they knock them. And it's like, well, don't knock them, because actually success is a hard lesson to learn, it, Simon, but success isn't about how good you are. Success is about how well you do whatever it is you do in terms of the game. And you could be the best coach in the world, but if you don't do the business of coaching very well, then you're going to struggle to ever be as successful as you could be. And these people have learned, right? They've mastered that. And I think there's a lot we can learn from these people, because what we need is more really good, authentic, decent quality professional people with the skills that enable them to get out there on social media and have more of an impact, right? Yeah.
Let's go back to the mindset stuff then, before we end up closing out and stuff. We are in a really difficult time at the moment. It is really weird. We are going to drop into this tier system. 99% of the country is in either tier 2 or tier 3.
We're all in lockdown.
So we're basically still in lockdown until Christmas. They're just not calling it lockdown so they can win the next election. So how would you say? What would you say to a business owner right now, a small business owner? They're struggling. They're really finding it hard to get to that end of the year, because they know if they can get to 2021, there's a chance they could survive as a business. What would you say to somebody who's really struggling mentally right now? What is there any tips you could give them or anything like that?
I think really the one thing that springs to mind, right, is almost like that. It's almost like that wake up moment. You know, I said before, where the moment you realize this is what it is, and this is what's happening, and this is what this is what we're dealing with, and not hoping necessarily for anything. We can hope for different, but what I mean is we're not hanging in there waiting for something different. My personal prediction is we're in lockdown till spring, right? So this is I predicted this back in probably around June time, May, June. I said to the club, I said, look, we're going to have a relatively okay summer. I think we're going to have a slightly tough autumn. Then I think we're going to be in a long lockdown. And I think we're going to have a bumpy ride through to spring, right? And then once, you heard the government started to talk in very similar terms around September, they started talking very similar terms. And then lo and behold, we end up in a tier system. Then from a tier system, we end up in a lockdown. From a lockdown, we end up going back into a tier system, but it's a tier system that's twice as strict as it was when we went in. So it's almost like, right? So, to places of the cases have gone down, but the tier's gone up, and there's a whole lot of reasons why that might be, and they'll sell you a great story on why that is. But the truth of the matter is, I'm telling you now, we've got 5 days off over Christmas. Most of the country is still in lockdown, right? If you're tier 2, you're still in lockdown, right? I mean, yes, you've got some freedom. Look at how we're talking in the modern world. Can you even believe we're saying this? You have some freedom. Honestly, I the world's just accepted. Oh yeah, we have these conversations now. You're allowed to meet people for Christmas. What do you fucking mean allowed to meet people for Christmas? Anyway, right? Anyway, this is the world we live in, where we even have these conversations where I'm allowed to walk my dog, or I'm allowed to get in my car, or whatever, or allowed to cross a border. Anyway,
I'm allowed to exercise.
I'm allowed to. I'm allowed. It's a weird world. It's a weird world to even think like that, right? Okay, it's a strange place that we think like that. But I think we're going to be in bumpy. So I think for most people, it's this. Look, enjoy your Christmas, because Christmas is great anyway, even if you're in your own home. I mean, the good thing about Christmas Day, it doesn't matter if you're locked down or not. It's lockdown. No one does anything. You might have a couple of people around your house, but you're just locked in anyway, right? You just wake up and eat yourself to sleep. So anyway, but I think, yes, by all means, you can have that. Let me just get to the end of this year, right? I get that, because at the end of the year, there's a break. There's a natural break come in where no one expects much from you over Christmas. Your clients will go to have Christmas, and there's a lot of pressure that can release over that period. So by all means, look forward to Christmas and look forward to closing out business this year. But I'm telling you now, don't lie to yourself that, if I can get to the end of the year, then come January, we'll be okay. And then, the vaccine's going to come. And then by spring, we're going to be, I think it's very naive to be thinking like that. And I think all you're doing is prolonging your own misery. I think it's like the person in drowning in the sea that's refusing to accept they're drowning, and therefore they're not really doing the things they need to do to embrace the situation they're really in. And I think everyone's talking like 2021 is going to be this incredible year, and it's going to be okay, and the vaccine's going to come, we're going to go back to normal. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to happen, right? It's not going to happen. We've got another bumpy period next year. Certainly the early part of next year, I think it's going to consider to be lumpy. Then we've got the recession to contend with, right? We are in a bang smack recession. They don't end overnight either. We're spending like nothing on earth. The government's finding money for everything. I look at homeless people now in a very different way. I'm like, the amount of money you find for everything else, right? How's the lot of them, right? I mean, it's no money compared to what you're spending on furloughing 22-year-olds and stuff. Yeah. But my point is that I think the tip point of what I'm saying, there is a motivational part to this. I'm a realist as well.
I'm waiting.
that realism is not about being negative or even a pessimist. I can't bear the pessimism and negativity being under the banner of realism. Realism is about having your wise-eyed open and seeing what really is there. And then it's about being the most positive force you can within that obvious truth. And the obvious truth is we are in bumpy times and lumpy times, and it's going to be bumpy into next year. So I don't want people to be thinking, if I can just get to the end of the year, then someone's going to save me. If I can get to the end of the year, the vaccine's going to save me. The world's going to be okay. It's like, it is what it is. The terrain is bumpy. Right now, for me, it's about creating your own stability. It's creating stability in your own life, not relying on going to the pub and meeting other people to be happy. It's saying, how can I find what I was getting from that social activity? How can I bring that into my life now? So I'm not harping back to when I used to be able to do something, or harping forward to when they allow me to do it again. It's saying, right, you know what, how do I make this happen for me? It's like, you go to the gym a lot. I used to go to the gym. And, the gym was taken off the table. So I set up my gym here in my studio / everything place. And I set up my gym and I started working out from home, and I flipping love it. So now I haven't gone back to my gym, and I've cancelled my gym membership because I prefer it actually. But also, of course, if I had gone back to the gym, it would only been about 2 months before I bloody kicked out the gym again and we're back in lockdown.
Tell me about it.
But that's really destabilizing to people. And this, can I go to the pub? Can I go to the pub? Can I meet friends? Can I not meet friends? Do I do this activity in my business? Can I go networking face to face or networking online? And if we're blown by external circumstances and we're constantly doing what we're allowed to do and what we're told to do, rather than saying, right, this is the terrain we live in, and creating a life and a business that works independent of that external chaos, then we can bring that calm and that peace to our life that's maybe missing for some people, especially the ones that you're talking about who are saying, let's just get to the end of the year. Let's just, you know what I mean? And it's like, no, how do you, irrespective of what Boris Johnson does, irrespective of what the Sage say, irrespective of the media, irrespective of coronavirus and vaccines and all that shit, irrespective of all those things, how do you create a life that works for you? How do you create a business that works for you? How do you create fulfillment and success within, a bubble, if you like, of your own creation, rather than one that's been constantly buffeted and dictated to by external forces? And I think it's what creates happiness and fulfillment anyway, I'll be honest with you, right? Is finding it yourself rather than relying on external things. But I think it's just really important. And I think if people use Christmas, if they are in that mindset you're talking, if they use the Christmas period of just enjoying the peace and the quiet and the space and not having to be frantic with work and that, and really start to design their life and design their own experience in life, independent of Boris Johnson and whatever's going on in America and all these sorts of things. I think, for me, I think it's really important that we become self-determining.
I don't want to keep you too much longer, but
I'm happy. I'm good.
What you said there just kind of brought another question to mind then, is obviously we are going into December. That would normally be a point in a time where a business, and we saw it over summer, and I couldn't believe we still saw it over summer, where people stop working. Do you think then going into December, this is a huge opportunity for those smaller businesses to double down and do way more than the competition probably are likely to do?
Yeah, for sure, right? I mean, there's no question. So during summer, I put out, my message to my members, and that was really simple. Look, we'd had 3 really, I mean, it's almost hard to remember. The world is changing so fast and things happen so fast. If you remember, Simon, what April, May, June kind of felt like, and, from the end of March through, it was... I was
talking about this the other day, and we were literally saying, I can't actually remember a period of time. I remember things, but I don't remember a period of time. No. I don't remember a day or a week. I remember sitting on the balcony with my little boy in his swimming pool. I remember going for an ice cream. I don't remember like full days. I couldn't tell you when those things happened.
I know it's quite, and it's only a handful of months ago, right? But we forget. But so a lot of businesses, ourselves included, by the way, we worked so hard during that period, because it was emotionally really challenging. So it was exhausting emotionally. Mentally, it was challenging because we're like, suddenly we've got a million problems to solve. So it's mentally, and then physically it is because we had to work so much harder over that period. Either, if you're in a supporting role, if you're a service-based business, say like we are coaches, mentors and stuff, accountants had this, HR people had this, suddenly you're working twice as hard to support the people you had, because everyone's got, normally, out of my 70 plus members, there's a handful of people going through chaos, right? At any one time. Yeah. Suddenly, out of 70 members, maybe 70, 80% of those are going through chaos, right?
Right.
Right. So you're exhausted. So there's a period where I said to people, look, take the break if you need the break. Take the breather when you came into summer. But I said to them then, I said, listen, and again, not doom and gloom, I was just predicting what's inevitable. I said, look, we're going to have a hard autumn. It's going to be a hard winter. We're going to be probably in the best time, right? And this was back in about May, June time. I said, this is going to be the best, June it was. I said, this is going to be the best period you've got in business and in life, probably maybe for another 8-9 months or so, right? Until maybe through to March next year. And I said, so just, enjoy that period in terms of the opportunity that's there for business. And all the business owners that I worked with over that period, and our members, I kept pushing them hard over summer when a lot of people kept switching off and, treating summer like it was a normal summer. It's like, you've just had 3 months off. You just had 2 months off.
Exactly, yeah.
Don't take another 2 months off. Work, you're going to catch up. And every member I worked with who pushed hard and sold through summer, they all got themselves back on track. By October time, they were really back on track. This is why I was so frustrated going into these bloody tier systems and then now back into lockdown, and then what we're facing for the next 4 or 5 months really got my goat, because I seen so many business owners work so hard to get to that point where they were back on track and they'd done what they needed to do. And then there's another rug being taken out from them. Now, the good news is it's almost like, okay, we're in lockdown now. The world almost carries on like normal, unless you're in one of those industries where, like a pub or club or whatever, where you can't work. It's almost like you have to just keep going forward. For me, there's no question. I think Christmas is going to be like summer. I think there's going to be more business available in December and through December than maybe there is most years, because I think a lot of people are still capitalizing on that. So especially if you're a service-based business, especially if you're B2B, we've been so crippled that I don't think we can have the luxury of winding down first week of December. I think there's such an opportunity, and my encouragement is the same, right? Is put your line in the sand. This is your cutoff, right? This is your cutoff, and then when you cut off, you're going to do it. It could be one day you cut off for Christmas and you work the rest of the time. You might say, I'm going to cut off from the 21st through to the 4th of January. Whatever it is you decide, then decide on that. That's fine. But for me, you're an ex-athlete, right? You always lunge for the line. You always, even if you've fallen over, you've lost your shoe, right, Simon? You don't sit there and say, "Oh, fuck this, I've lost already." You always lunge for the line, right? And for me, I say it every year, but I think this year is more important. I know you're tired. I know you're worn out. I know it's been a shit year. I know many of us want to get to the end of it, but I think it's like, you know what? It's one more bend. It's one more lap. It's one more push. Make the most of what is there right now. Spirits are going to go high. People, even though we're in a weird Christmas, people are looking forward to it. There's going to be a shift in energy. That is good for business, right? Optimism and positivity. It's good for business. Maximize that, because we're going to come into January, and January we know is always quiet and it's always a bit sluggish. This year it might be twice as sluggish because, let's be honest, we're going to be, if we don't go into full lockdown, it doesn't really matter because we'll all be in tier 3 anyway. So it's the same shit. I mean, it doesn't make any difference. We won't go in lockdown again, but you might all be in tier 3 or maybe tier 4. We haven't designed that yet, but it might. So the point is, I think January, February, again, I don't be doom and gloom. I think January and February are going to be hard months. I think they're dark, they're cold, they're miserable anyway. And I think they're going to be harder this year. And I think, capitalize on what's there right now. And from now through to middle to the 3rd week of December, I think it's a great opportunity for business owners. And you want to set up as much as you can, even if you don't want to do the work now, set it up for January. So you're not waking up in January going, where's the business? Wake up in January with a client ready, with work ready, with your next contract ready, whatever it might be.
Cool. George, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you for the last 41 minutes. Blimey, we've been going for a while. If people want to find you, obviously you've got the club, so I'll put all the details of your website and your socials underneath and everything like that after the show. But is there one place in particular you'd like people to try and find you on social media? I
would love it. So definitely for me personally, right? If I could say this, right, it's my podcast, which Simon does all my editing for and does my production and posting and everything else. I record and then hand it over to Simon. I think actually, you know what? I mean, find me on social media. Definitely, Facebook is where I probably have most of my conversations. You'll see me on LinkedIn and stuff. But I think if I could encourage anyone that's watching this, if you want tips, hints, if you want to keep that just keep yourself in the game and stuff, then if you can point them at the podcast, so the Leveling Up podcast, it's on SoundCloud, iTunes. If you can drop the link on that as well, Simon, that'd be awesome. Just check me out. Either search my name, George Swift, or you can search Leveling Up with George Swift, whatever, and you'll find me there. And there's like 200 and something episodes that Simon, because you've worked through them all. But there's some really good stuff there that went right through the whole of the lockdown, and I'm going to keep putting out 3 times a week. And it's all about, there's tactics and strategies in business, but a lot of it is about keeping in the game and keep pushing forward.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for chatting to us, George, and take care. And stay safe in these weird times. I shall just remove you for a moment. So thank you very much to George Swift for joining us this evening from Bigger, Brighter, Boulder. Like I say, all his links will be in the section below after this live show. So if you're watching on the replay, they're already there waiting for you to go and click them and check out more about George and the group and the community that he works with. If you're brand new, please, as always, do hit subscribe on my content as well, whatever platform you're watching on, be it Twitch, Periscope, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you are. And thank you so much for watching, as always. And just in this current climate, still, as I always say at the end of these, please continue to stay safe and have a good one. I will catch you on Monday at an undisclosed time because it is Daddy Daycare Day. So I'll see you whenever I see you. Have a good one and take